The Apache woman appeared by the fence, holding her baby, her voice weak. "Please, milk for my baby." Some laughed, others looked away. But when the cowboy recognized something in her and answered with just one sentence, his hands began to tremble, and everyone around fell into absolute silence. Subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment from which part of the world you're watching, because now I'm going to tell you everything. The crying would not stop. Sarah Littlebird held her son close against her chest. She rocked back and forth. She whispered his true name, the one only she and his father knew. Nothing worked. "Little Hawk, please," she whispered into the thin blanket. "You must rest." His small face was red and hot. His cries were weak now, little more than a dry, rasping sound. He was hungry. Sarah had no milk to give him. She had eaten almost nothing for 3 days so that her mother and brother could have more. Her body had nothing left to make milk. The heat inside the small brush shelter was heavy. Outside, the Arizona sun burned the rocks and the dirt. It was the year 1887. Sarah was 22 years old, and her whole world was the size of this crying baby. Her mother, White Flower, sat nearby grinding dried seeds. Her hands moved slowly. Each cry from the baby made her shoulders tense. "He grows weaker, Mother," Sarah said, her voice tight. White Flower did not look up. "The land is dry. Our bodies are dry. There is no answer here." "There must be an answer." Sarah's eyes stung, but she did not let the tears fall. Crying used water her body did not have. Her brother Kaya pushed into the shelter. He was 18, his eyes always moving, always angry. "The soldiers rode east. They are gone for now." "Good," White Flower said. Kaya looked at his sister and the baby. His mouth became a hard line. "He still cries. He will lead the cowboys to us with that noise." Sarah held Little Hawk tighter. "He is a baby. He is sick." "He is a noise we cannot afford," Kaya said. He turned and left. Sarah looked down at her son. Her heart beat a hard, fast rhythm against his small body. She knew Kaya was wrong, but he was also right. The sound was a danger. The group of maybe 20 people hid in these dry hills near the place the white men called Fort Lowell. Cowboys from the big ranches wanted them gone. Soldiers from the fort would take them far away to a prison camp. Sound could find them. But a deeper truth was louder than the fear. If her son did not eat soon, he would die. The crying would stop forever. "I have to get milk," Sarah said, the words leaving her mouth before she knew she had thought them. White Flower's hands stopped. She finally looked at her daughter. Her face was old and tired. "Where? There is no milk here. The deer are gone. The soldiers took the cows." Sarah lifted her eyes. She looked past the shelter opening, down toward the flat land below. A pale, dusty road cut through the scrub. She knew where it led. Every few days, a group of cowboys made camp near the creek there. They had cattle. They had milk. "No," White Flower said, seeing her daughter's face. "Sarah, no. You cannot go to them." "What is my choice?" Sarah asked, the words sharp. "Watch my son die? His father is gone. I am all he has. Those men, they are not good men. They will hurt you, or worse, they will take him." White Flower's voice cracked. Sarah stood up. Her legs felt weak, but she locked her knees. She adjusted the blanket around Little Hawk. His cries had faded to shaky little breaths. That was worse. "If I do nothing, the sickness takes him. If I go, there is a chance. One chance." She walked to the shelter opening. The afternoon sun hit her face like a physical wall. She squinted. The road looked 1,000 miles away. Her mother came up behind her, placing a hand on her arm. "Your Uncle Grey Wolf will be furious. He says we must have no contact. It is the rule." "Grey Wolf's children are grown and strong," Sarah said quietly. "My rule is here, in my arms." She did not wait for another answer. She started to walk, leaving the safety of the hidden camp. The ground was rough with sharp rocks and cactus. She held Little Hawk with one arm and used the other to balance. Her soft-soled boots were thin, and she felt every stone. As she walked, she talked to him. Her voice was a low, steady stream against the vast silence. "Your father was a brave man, Little Hawk. He could run for 2 days without stopping. He would be walking with us now. He would tell me this is a good walk, a necessary walk." She reached the edge of the road. The dirt was churned by many hooves. She stopped. Her mouth was dry. This was the line. Behind her was the hidden world of her people. Ahead was the world of the enemy. She looked down at her son's face. His eyes were closed, his dark lashes wet. His little hand gripped the edge of her dress. A wave of fear washed over her. It was so strong it made her stomach hurt. Images filled her mind, mean faces, laughing mouths, a gun pointing. Her baby being torn from her arms. Her feet felt like they were made of stone, rooted to the earth. Then Little Hawk made a small sound, a tiny, hungry whimper. The stone melted. Sarah's heart, which felt like a trapped bird beating in her chest, broke free. It flew ahead of her, down the road, pulling her with it. Love was stronger than fear. She stepped onto the dusty road. She did not look back. She held her baby close and began the long walk toward the cowboy camp. The heat from the small fire hit Sarah's face first. Then the smell hit her. Sweat, old leather, cooked beans, and dust. She stood at the edge of the clearing, the setting sun behind her making long shadows. 5 men sat around the fire. Their horses were tied to a wooden post nearby. The men were dirty. Their clothes were stained. They looked tired from a long day with the cows. One man was stirring a pot. Another was mending a piece of rope. All movement stopped when they saw her. Sarah's whole body was shaking. She held Little Hawk so tight she worried she would hurt him. She forced her feet to take one more step into the light of the fire. A man with a narrow face and a black hat sneered. He was the one mending the rope. "Well, look what the cat dragged in. Lost your way, squaw?" One of the other men, younger, looked at the ground quickly, his face turning red. The man stirring the pot just stared. Sarah's mouth was too dry to speak. She swallowed, but it felt like swallowing sand. Her eyes moved from face to face. They landed on a man sitting a little apart from the others, his back against a saddle. He had a beard the color of rust, bright even in the fading light. He was not looking at her. He was looking at a small, worn journal in his hands, but his fingers had stopped turning the page. The man with the narrow face, Jasper Hale, laughed. It was a mean, short sound. "She's begging. Probably wants tobacco or whiskey. Ain't that right?" Sarah found her voice. It came out thin and cracked. "Please," she said. The English word felt strange on her tongue. "Milk, for my baby." She shifted the blankets so they could see Little Hawk's small, pale face. The baby let out another weak, raspy cry. Jasper Hale spat into the dirt near the fire. "Milk? That's prime cattle milk, for working men, not for no sick Indian pup." The young cowboy who had looked away mumbled, "Ah, Jasper, come on now." "Shut it, Billy," Jasper said, not taking his eyes off Sarah. "You let 'em take a finger, they'll take the whole hand. She ain't getting nothing. Now get out of here before you scare the horses." Sarah's knees felt like they might buckle. The last bit of hope in her chest began to shrivel. She looked desperately at the other men. The cook looked away. Billy studied his own boots. The last man just watched, his expression blank. Then, the man with the red beard closed his journal with a soft snap. He placed it carefully in his saddlebag. He stood up. He was tall, with slow, tired movements. Jasper turned his head. "Where you going, Red? Supper's almost ready." Robert Red McAllister did not answer Jasper. He walked toward Sarah. His steps were quiet in the soft dirt. He stopped a few feet from her. His eyes were a pale blue, and they did not look angry or mean. They looked empty, like a dry lake bed. But then they looked down at Little Hawk. Red's face changed. It was a small change, a tightening around his eyes, a slight drop of his jaw. He stared at the baby's face, at the tiny, suffering movements. Sarah saw his eyes fill with a terrible knowing. It was not the look of a cowboy seeing an Apache. It was the look of a person recognizing a deep, private pain. "Please," she whispered again, a tear finally breaking free and tracing a clean line through the dirt on her cheek. Red's gaze lifted from the baby to her face. He saw the fear. He saw the exhaustion. He saw the absolute love that had driven her here into the lion's mouth. He saw a mirror. "How old?" His voice was rough from disuse. Sarah was confused for a second. He is 4 moons, she said, using her fingers to show. Red flinched. It was just a small twitch in his shoulder, but Sarah saw it. His own eyes looked wet for a moment before he blinked it away. He turned his back on her and walked toward the supply wagon. Jasper stood up now. "McAllister, what do you think you're doing?" Red did not listen. He rummaged in a wooden box and pulled out a clean tin cup. He walked to a metal container sitting in the shade. He opened it and poured. The sound of fresh milk splashing into the cup was the loudest sound in the quiet camp. He walked back and held the cup out to Sarah. It was full almost to the top with white milk. Sarah's hands were shaking so badly she was afraid she would drop it. She carefully shifted Little Hawk, holding him with one arm, and took the cup with her free hand. The metal was cool. The smell of the milk was sweet and rich. "Thank you," she breathed in Apache, the words an automatic spill of relief. Red nodded once. He understood. Then he did something that made the air in the camp go completely still. He answered her, not in English, but in her own language. His words were slow, the accent heavy and formal but clear. "I lost my daughter to the fever too." The silence was so deep Sarah could hear the fire crackle and one of the horses stamp its foot. Jasper Hale's mouth was open. Billy stared at Red as if he had grown a second head. Sarah looked into Red's tired, pained eyes and saw the truth. He was not just a cowboy. He was a father with a ghost. In that moment, the world narrowed to just the three of them. A mother, a baby, and a man holding an old, awful grief. She nodded back to him, a connection passing between them that needed no more words. She turned the cup carefully and brought it to Little Hawk's lips. The milk was gone. Sarah had tipped the last few drops into Little Hawk's mouth. The baby's eyes were closed now, his breathing easier, his small hand resting open on her arm. The silence in the camp was thick and heavy. Red McAllister watched them for a moment longer. The mother's trembling had stopped. The baby was quiet. A job was done. He turned and walked back to his place by the saddle. The other men were staring at him. He could feel their eyes like hot points on his skin. Jasper Hale broke the silence. His voice was low and dangerous. "You speak their jabber, Red? Since when?" Red picked up his journal again. He did not open it. He just held the worn leather cover. "A long time ago," he said, his voice flat. "You gave her good milk," said the cook, a man named Leo. He sounded more surprised than angry. "The baby was hungry," Red said. It was the only explanation he had. Billy, the young cowboy, nodded slowly. "It was the right thing, I guess." "The right thing?" Jasper stood up, kicking dirt toward the fire. "The right thing is to run him off this land, not feed him. That squaw's got a man hiding in those hills who'd slit your throat for your boots, Red, and you just showed her we're soft." Red's fingers tightened on the journal. He saw Sarah from the corner of his eye slipping away from the firelight back into the gathering dusk. She was gone, but the feeling in his chest remained. It was a sharp, familiar ache. He remembered the weight of a small child in his arms, a different child, a little girl with hair the color of corn silk. "Ellen, she's burning up." His own voice from years ago echoed in his head. They were in a small rented room in a town in Texas. The air was hot and still. His wife Ellen felt their daughter Mary's forehead. Her face was white with fear. "It's just a fever. It will break." But it did not break. Mary cried for 3 days. Her small body was so hot. Red held her, rocking her, whispering promises he could not keep. He poured cool cloths on her skin. He tried to get her to drink sips of water. "Daddy," she whispered on the third night, her voice a dry rustle. "I'm here, sweetheart." "My doll," she said. He placed the rag doll in her arms. She held it, then her eyes closed. Her breathing became a thin, struggling whistle. Then it stopped. The memory was a physical pain. Red closed his eyes for a second, pressing the journal against his leg. "You ain't even listening," Jasper was shouting at him. Red looked up. "I heard you. Then what do you got to say for yourself? You think you're some kind of saint?" Red stood up. He was taller than Jasper. He did not step forward, but his stillness was more powerful than a shout. "I think a man can be tired of seeing children suffer," Red said, each word slow and deliberate. "That's all." Jasper sneered but took a half step back. "You got a soft heart, McAllister. A soft heart gets you killed out here." Red did not answer. He walked away from the fire, away from the men. He walked to the edge of the creek where the horses were drinking. He needed the quiet. He sat on a rock and opened the journal. The pages were worn at the edges. He turned to a clean sheet. He took a short pencil from his pocket. He did not write about cows or fences or the miles ridden. He never did. He looked at the blank page, and in his mind, he saw Mary's face. He saw the Apache woman's face. The two pictures blurred together. The same desperation, the same love, the same fear of loss. He put the pencil to the paper. His writing was big and clumsy. Asterisk. Dear Mary, it is hot today. I saw a little baby today. He was sick like you were. I helped his mother. I hope that is okay. I gave them some milk. I think you would have liked her. She was very brave. I still miss you every day. Love, Pa asterisk. He stared at the words. They were stupid. They were the words of a lonely, broken man talking to a ghost. But it was the only thing that made the pain feel a little less heavy. He had started writing these letters after Ellen left. It was the only way he could talk to his daughter. He heard footsteps behind him. It was Billy. Red? Yeah. Jasper's real mad. He's telling everyone you're on the Indian side now. Red closed the journal. There ain't no sides to a hungry baby, Billy. Billy shifted his weight. I know. It's just, you spoke their talk. It spooked the men. I learned it from a friend, a long time ago, before the war. Red did not offer more. The friend was gone too. Another ghost. What was her name? Billy asked quietly. Your daughter. Red looked out at the dark water of the creek. Saying her name out loud here felt dangerous, like letting his ghost out into the world. But he did it anyway. Mary. Billy nodded. I'm sorry, Red. Me too. Billy walked back to camp. Red stayed by the creek. He thought about the Apache woman walking back into the dark hills. He hoped the milk was enough. He hoped the baby lived. For the first time in 2 years, the memory of Mary did not make him want to find a bottle of whiskey. It made him want to make sure that other people's children had a chance. He had failed Mary. He could not fix that. But maybe, just maybe, he had not failed today. He put the journal back in his pocket. His hand brushed against something hard. He pulled it out. It was a small, smooth riverstone, gray and white. He had picked it up weeks ago because it was pretty. He rubbed it with his thumb now, a simple, solid thing in a world that felt broken. He thought of the small, wrapped bundle in the woman's arms. He hoped the baby was sleeping. He hoped the mother felt a little less alone. He stood up and walked back toward the fire, the stone cool in his hand. The men were mostly silent now, but the air was sour with Jasper's anger. Red did not care. For once, the heavy sadness inside him had a purpose. It had told him what to do, and he had done it. Sarah moved through the darkness like a shadow. Little Hawk was a warm, sleeping weight against her chest. The empty tin cup was clutched in her hand, a hard, real proof that the encounter had happened. Her heart was still pounding, but now it was mixed with a strange feeling, something like hope. She reached the hidden camp as the moon rose. A sentry, her brother Kaya, stepped from behind a rock. His eyes went from her face to the cup in her hand. "Where did you get that?" he demanded, his voice a harsh whisper. "From a cowboy," Sarah said, walking past him. Kaya grabbed her arm. "You are a fool. They followed you?" "No one followed me." She pulled her arm free. "He gave me milk. He spoke our language." Kaya stared at her, disbelief on his face. Before he could say more, a low, angry voice came from the central fire. "Sarah Littlebird, come here." Her uncle, Grey Wolf, stood by the small fire. He was a man of 50 years, his face like carved wood. Her mother, White Flower, stood behind him, wringing her hands. The other members of their small group watched from the shadows of their shelters. Sarah walked to the fire. She could feel every eye on her. She held up the cup. "My son was dying. I got him milk." Grey Wolf's eyes were black stones. "You went to the white men's camp?" "Yes." "You broke the rule of silence. You showed them we are here." "I showed one man I was a mother with a hungry child," Sarah said, her voice gaining strength. "That is all." "One man tells the others. The soldiers pay for information. You think he will be silent?" Grey Wolf stepped closer. "You have put everyone here in danger for a cup of milk." "It was not just milk," Sarah insisted, thinking of Red's tired, pained eyes. "He understood. He spoke to me. He said he lost a child at 2. Grey Wolf spat into the fire. The coals hissed. "A story. A trick to make you lower your guard. Their words are honey on a sharp knife. You have brought that knife to our home." "He helped me," Sarah said, her defiance fading into exhaustion. "He ended your son's crying today," Grey Wolf said, his voice cold and final. But he may have started the crying of many more children tomorrow. You will not go back. You will not go near that road again. If you do, you will leave this group. You will put no one else at risk. Do you understand? Sarah looked at her mother. White Flower's eyes were full of tears and fear. She gave a tiny, helpless shake of her head. Sarah looked down at Little Hawk, sleeping peacefully for the first time in days. "I understand," she whispered. Back at the cowboy camp, the supper was eaten in a stiff silence. The only sounds were the clink of tin plates and the crackle of the fire. Jasper Hale scraped his plate clean and threw it toward the wash bucket. It landed with a loud clang. "A traitor," he said, not looking at anyone in particular. "That's what we got in our midst, a man who gives aid to the enemy." Red, sitting away from the circle, continued to clean his rifle. He did not react. "It was just milk, Jasper," Billy said quietly, but his voice lacked conviction. "Just milk?" Jasper stood up, pacing. "It's a sign. It's weakness. Those Apaches watch us. They see Red here talk their talk, give them our supplies. What do they think? They think we are soft. They think they can take more. Maybe they think they can take our cattle. Maybe they think they can take our scalps." Leo, the cook, sighed. "The baby was sick, Jasper." "So what? Their babies get sick, their babies die. That's the way of things out here." Jasper pointed a finger at Red, who finally looked up. "He don't think like us no more. He's got sympathy for them. A man with sympathy in the wrong place is a danger to every man riding with him." Red placed his cleaned rifle down carefully. "Are you finished?" "No, I ain't finished." Jasper walked right up to him. The other men watched, tense. "I want to know where your loyalty lies, McAllister. With the men who pay your wages, or with the squaws and their pups?" Red stood up slowly, meeting Jasper's gaze. His voice was low and calm. "My loyalty doesn't lie with a man who bullies women and children. It lies with doing what's right. That baby needed milk. I had milk. That's the end of it." "It's just the start of it," Jasper shouted. "You mark my words. Your soft heart is gonna bring trouble. And when it does, don't expect us to stand beside you." Jasper turned and stormed off toward his bedroll. The camp was quiet again, but the air was split now, a line drawn right down the middle of the fire. Billy walked over to Red later, as Red was rolling out his own blankets. "He's just blowing hot air, Red." Red shook his head. "No, he ain't. He means it. And some of the others are listening." "What are you gonna do?" Red looked into the dark hills, wondering if the baby was still asleep, if the mother was safe from her own people's anger. "I'm gonna go to sleep, Billy. We got cows to move tomorrow." But as he lay down, he stared at the stars. Jasper's words were just noise. The real sound in his head was the soft, grateful words of the Apache woman, and the silence of a baby who was no longer crying. He knew, with a cold certainty, that he would do the same thing again, and he knew that choice had changed things forever. 3 days passed. The work at the ranch went on. The men moved a herd of cattle to a new pasture. Red did his job. He rode from dawn until dusk. He spoke only when necessary. The other cowboys, except for Billy, spoke to him even less. Jasper Hale made sure of it. At noon, they stopped by a creek to let the horses drink. The men sat in the shade, eating hard biscuits and salt pork. "Heard from a feller at the fort," Jasper said loudly, taking a bite. "Said a scout saw fresh Apache sign up in the eastern hills. More than usual. Looks like a whole bunch of them are gathering." Leo glanced at Red. "That's near where we're grazing the south herd." "Sure is," Jasper said, his eyes locked on Red. "Makes a man wonder what's drawing them in. Maybe they got a reason to think they're welcome." Red took a drink from his canteen. He said nothing. Billy frowned. "That's a day's ride from here, Jasper." "A day's ride for now," Jasper retorted. "But if they get bold, it becomes an hour's ride. Boldness comes from encouragement." He stood up, brushing crumbs from his pants. A man who feeds a stray dog shouldn't be surprised when the whole pack shows up at his door. Red stood up at 2. He walked over to where Jasper was tightening his saddle cinch. His voice was low, for Jasper alone. "Say what you mean, Hale." Jasper turned, a mean smile on his face. "I mean you invited trouble. You think that squaw saw kindness? No, she saw weakness. Now her people are edging closer. If anything happens to the cattle, if anything happens to any man here, that blood is on your hands. Traitors' hands." Red's fist clenched at his side, but he didn't raise it. "You're seeing ghosts, Jasper, and making up stories to suit your hate." "Am I?" Jasper mounted his horse. "We'll see. The boys know where I stand, and they know where you stand too. Alone." Jasper rode off to haze a stray cow. Red watched him go. He looked around at the other men. Leo looked away quickly. 2 others studied their saddle horns. Only Billy met his gaze, offering a weak, apologetic shrug. Red felt the wall around him, invisible but solid. He was alone. In the hills, Sarah felt a different kind of loneliness. Little Hawk was better. He fed eagerly, his cries now healthy and strong. But every time he made a sound, Sarah saw Grey Wolf or Kaya tense. Their eyes would dart toward the canyon entrance, expecting the sound to bring soldiers. She was caring for her son under a cloud of blame. She sat with her mother, White Flower, weaving a basket from dried reeds. The work was quiet and familiar. "He watches you," White Flower said softly, not looking up from her work. Sarah knew she meant Grey Wolf. "He thinks I am a danger. He is the leader. His job is to see danger. To all of us, you are his sister's daughter. To him, you are one of the people he must protect. Your action scared him." "My action saved my son," Sarah whispered fiercely. "It did," White Flower agreed. "And that is the conflict in his heart. He is glad Little Hawk lives, but he fears the cost." Kaya walked up, his bow in hand. "I am going to hunt rabbits. The canyon to the west." Grey Wolf called from where he sat, sharpening a knife. "No, not the West Canyon." "Why?" "The rabbits are fat there," Kaya said. "Because it points toward the white man's road. We stay to the east. We make no sign, no smoke, no sound toward the west. That is the rule now." Grey Wolf's eyes slid to Sarah. "A new rule for new risks." Sarah felt the words like a slap. She stood, leaving the basket. "I will get water." She took a clay pot and walked to the small spring at the back of their hideout. As she dipped the pot, she heard footsteps. Grey Wolf stood behind her. "You are angry with me," he said. "You treat me like a child who set a fire," Sarah said, not turning around. "I treat you like a person who dropped a stone in a still pond. The ripples reach every shore. We must be more careful now because of your action. That is a fact, not a punishment." Sarah finally turned to face him. The cowboy was not like the others. His eyes were sad. He spoke of his dead child. There was no trick. Grey Wolf's expression was unmoved. Perhaps his sadness was real, but he is still a white man. His people still take our land. His soldiers still take our men to prisons in the east. One drop of honey does not sweeten a cup of poison. You will not seek him out again. "And if Little Hawk gets sick again?" Sarah challenged. Grey Wolf's stern face softened, just for a moment. "Then we will find another way. Our way, not their way." He turned and walked back to the camp. Sarah filled the water pot, her thoughts churning. She believed Red was good, but Grey Wolf was also right. One man's kindness could not stop the wave of his people's hunger for land. Holding both truths in her heart was exhausting. That night, as she fed Little Hawk by their small fire, Kaya returned empty-handed from hunting in the east. "Nothing," he grumbled to Grey Wolf. "The animals are scarce. We need to hunt further out." Grey Wolf shook his head, his gaze drifting toward the forbidden west. "Not yet. We wait." Sarah looked at her brother's hungry face, at the thin broth her mother was making. The cost of her decision was no longer a fear for the future. It was here, in their empty bellies. She held her healthy, feeding son close, wondering if the price of his life would be the suffering of her family. The weight of that thought was heavier than any water pot. The morning was cold. Jasper Hale rode with 2 other men, Tom and Jed, along the base of the eastern hills. They were supposed to be looking for stray cattle from the main herd. "Should have brought Red along," Jed said, chewing on a piece of grass. "He's got the best eyes for tracking." Jasper spat. "I don't want him within a mile of this. His loyalties are confused." Tom pointed ahead. "Look there. That's a cow patty, but it's old. Ain't no fresh sign here. We're wasting time." "We're not," Jasper said, his eyes scanning the rocky slopes. "We're doing important work. The boss said there's been Apache sign around. If we find it, we can clear him out. Make the range safe." "For 300 head of cattle?" Tom asked, skeptical. "This is a big country, Jasper." "It starts with 300 head," Jasper said firmly. Then it's 1,000. Then it's your homestead. You let a wolf take one lamb, you lose the whole flock. I'm not letting that happen. They rode in silence for another hour. The sun climbed higher. Then Jed held up a hand. Whoa, look there. He dismounted and walked to a patch of soft dirt near a dry wash. He crouched down. Horse track, unshod, small. And look here. He pointed to a scatter of crushed pine nuts and a few tiny sharp bones. Someone had a meal here, recently. Jasper was off his horse in a second. He examined the ground, a faint swept pattern in the dust. They tried to brush out their tracks, not well enough. He looked up the steep slope, a hungry light in his eyes. They're up there. I know it. Tom looked nervous. How many, you think? Don't matter. We find their camp. We ride back to the ranch. We get more men. We chase them clean out of the territory. Jasper remounted. Stay sharp and keep quiet. In the hidden camp, the hunger was a real pain in everyone's belly. The broth was just hot water with a few bitter roots. Little Hawk cried, and Sarah had nothing but the last of the dried meat Red had given her to soften for him. Grey Wolf stared into the weak fire. We must hunt, today. Kaya stood up eagerly. I will go. I know a place. Where? Grey Wolf asked. The West Canyon, just for a few hours. There are rabbits there. I have seen them. Grey Wolf was silent for a long time. The rule he had made was breaking in his own hands, bent by the needs of his people. Finally, he gave a single, sharp nod. Go, be like smoke, leave no sign, be back before the sun is at its highest point. Kaya grabbed his bow and quiver. He was gone in moments. Sarah felt a twist of fear. The West Canyon was closer to the white man's world, but she said nothing. Her son needed the food a successful hunt would bring. The morning dragged on. Sarah tried to keep busy, mending a blanket. Her mother sorted through their few remaining pieces of dried fruit. Then, a low bird call sounded from the mouth of the canyon. It was the sentry's signal. Asterisk danger. Asterisk Grey Wolf was on his feet instantly. He made a sharp gesture. The women gathered the children and moved quickly into the deepest part of the rocks behind a large boulder. Sarah clutched Little Hawk to her chest, her heart hammering. Grey Wolf and the two other men of fighting age moved to positions behind rocks, arrows notched. Sarah peered from behind the boulder. She saw Grey Wolf's tense back. Then she saw the reason. 3 men on horses were picking their way up the canyon. They moved slowly, looking at the ground, looking at the walls. One man had a narrow face and a black hat. She remembered that mean laugh. It was the angry one from the fire, the one called Jasper. He had found them. Just a little further, Jasper said, his voice carrying in the quiet canyon. The sign leads right up here. Tom, on his horse beside him, looked uneasy. This is a box canyon, Jasper. If they're here, we're riding right into them. Good, Jasper said, his hand resting on the rifle in his saddle scabbard. Let them see we're not afraid. Let them see what happens when they squat on private land. From behind his rock, Grey Wolf drew his bowstring taut. His aim was on the man with the black hat. One twitch of his fingers, and the fight would begin. The other Apache men followed his lead, their arrows aimed at the other 2 cowboys. Sarah pressed her hand over Little Hawk's mouth, stifling a whimper. Her mind raced. Kaya was gone. It was 3 armed cowboys against 3 Apache warriors. People would die. Her family would be destroyed. The image of the other cowboy, the one with the sad eyes, flashed in her mind. Red McAllister. He had spoken for peace. He had understood. He was the only one who might stop this. It was a desperate, dangerous idea. But watching Jasper Hale's smug face as he invaded their home, she knew staying here meant bloodshed. As Grey Wolf took a final, steadying breath, about to release his arrow, Sarah made her choice. She thrust Little Hawk into her mother's arms. "What are you doing?" White Flower gasped. "I am getting the only one who can help," Sarah whispered. And before her mother could stop her, she turned and slipped away, a shadow moving silently out the back of the camp into the maze of rocks. She began to run. The rocks cut into Sarah's feet through her thin boots. She did not feel the pain. Her lungs burned for air, but she did not slow down. She ran away from the canyon, away from the threat of Jasper's voice, toward the flat land where the big ranch stood. She moved without thinking, her body knowing the path. She dodged between prickly pear cactus, her dress snagging on thorns. She scrambled down a steep slope, sending a shower of pebbles clattering. She did not worry about noise now. Speed was everything. The sun was a white-hot weight on her back. Sweat stung her eyes. Her breath came in ragged gasps. One thought pulsed in her head with each pounding footfall. Asterisk, find red, find red, find red. She reached the flat land and the running became harder. The dirt was soft and sucked at her feet. There were no rocks to hide behind, just open space. She felt exposed, like a rabbit on a bare field. But she did not stop. In the distance, she saw the shapes of ranch buildings, a big barn, a corral, a small house. Her legs trembled with exhaustion, but she pushed them forward. She saw a man near a long fence. He was alone, using a hammer to fix a wooden post. Even from far away, she could see the color of his hair in the sun, copper red. She ran toward him, her strength almost gone. Red McAllister heard the sound of labored breathing and stumbling feet before he saw her. He turned, hammer still in hand. He saw the Apache woman from the camp, her face streaked with dust and sweat, her eyes wide with terror. She collapsed against the fence post, gripping it to stay upright. "You!" she gasped, her voice a dry scrape. "Please!" Red dropped the hammer. He stepped toward her, but did not touch her. "What is it? What's wrong?" "The man, the angry one from your fire, Jasper." She sucked in air. "He found our camp. He has 2 others. My uncle, the men. They have arrows. There will be fighting. Now." Red's blood went cold. He looked past her toward the hills. "Jasper went up there?" Sarah nodded fiercely. "He was in the canyon. My uncle will shoot. People will die. You said you were tired of seeing children suffer." Her eyes pleaded with him. "Please." Red did not hesitate. He turned and sprinted for the corral where the horses were. He threw a saddle on his big bay mare, cinching it tight with quick, sure moves. "Stay here," he called to Sarah. "Go to the barn. Stay out of sight." "No," she said, pushing herself off the post. "I am coming with you. It's too dangerous. There could be shooting. They are my family." Her voice was sharp, full of a strength that overcame her exhaustion. "I will show you the fastest way." Red looked at her determined face. He saw the same fierce love that had brought her to his camp. Arguing would waste time. He gave a sharp nod. He led a second horse, a calm gelding, from the corral. He did not bother with a saddle, just threw a blanket over its back and fastened a bridle. "Can you ride?" he asked. "Yes." He helped her onto the blanket. She gripped the horse's mane. Red swung onto his mare. He looked at Sarah. "Which way?" She pointed to a gap in the hills further north. "There. It is longer, but the ground is smooth. We can ride fast." "Then lead," Red said. Sarah kicked the gelding into a run. Red followed right behind her. The 2 horses thundered across the flat land, leaving a cloud of dust. The wind whipped Sarah's hair. She leaned low, guiding the horse with her knees and hands, taking them on a path only she knew. Red watched her back, this small woman riding with the skill of a warrior, risking everything for her family. He had been wrong before. Her people weren't a pack of wolves drawn by weakness. They were a family, just like his had been, trying to survive, and Jasper Hale was about to destroy them. They entered the hills. The path was narrow and winding, but Sarah did not slow. Red trusted her lead. The only sound was the pounding of hooves and the rush of the wind. Red's mind was clear. He knew what he had to do. He had to stand between the anger on both sides. He had to use the words he had learned long ago, the words he had spoken to her. He prayed they would be enough. The sound of the horses' hooves echoed off the canyon walls as Red and Sarah burst into the clearing. The scene was frozen. Jasper and his 2 men had their rifles half raised, pointing toward the rocks. From behind those rocks, Grey Wolf and his warriors stood, their bows drawn taut, arrows aimed at the cowboys' hearts. No one had fired. Yet, all heads turned at the sudden noise. Jasper's face twisted in confusion, then rage when he saw Red. Grey Wolf's eyes widened at the sight of Sarah sitting breathless on the horse behind the red-bearded cowboy. Red did not stop. He rode his mare straight into the empty space between the 2 groups. Sarah pulled her horse up behind him. Red held up his empty hands, high where everyone could see. "Stop!" His voice boomed in the quiet canyon. "Everybody, lower your weapons, now!" Jasper's face was purple with anger. "McAllister, you've gone and sided with them. I knew it." "I've sided with not having a massacre today, Jasper," Red shouted back, his eyes hard. "Put the rifle down." All of you." He turned his head slowly toward the rocks. He spoke in Apache, his voice firm but calm. "Gray Wolf, lower your bow, please. I am here to talk." From behind his rock, Gray Wolf did not move. His arrow was still aimed at Jasper. "You bring my niece back like a prisoner?" he called out. Sarah slid off her horse. She took a few steps forward, her hands open. "No, Uncle, he is not a prisoner. I brought him. He came to help, to stop the fighting." "She is telling the truth," Red said, returning to English for Jasper's benefit but keeping his posture open and non-threatening. "There doesn't need to be any killing here." Jasper laughed, a sharp, nasty sound. "You're blind. They're thieves and squatters. They're on land my boss owns. The only talk is them leaving or us making them leave." Red turned his horse to face Jasper fully. "They're people, Jasper. A family, hiding, trying to live, just like you and me once had families." "Don't you talk about my family," Jasper spat. "I'm talking about mine." Red's voice broke with a sudden raw emotion that silenced everyone. He took a deep, shaky breath. He looked from Jasper to Gray Wolf's hidden face. 2 years ago, I had a daughter. Her name was Mary. She got a fever. I couldn't save her. I held her while she died." The canyon was utterly silent. The wind seemed to stop. Jed and Tom, the other cowboys, looked at the ground, uncomfortable. Red continued, his voice quieter now, carrying in the stillness. "This woman," he said, pointing to Sarah without looking away from the men. "She came to my camp because her baby was dying. Hungry. I saw the look in her eyes. It was the same look I saw in my own mirror. The look of a parent who can't fix it." He turned his head toward Gray Wolf's position. "I gave her milk for her son. That is all. Because no parent should have to watch their child suffer. Not a white parent. Not an Apache parent." He paused, letting the words hang in the air. "Jasper, you got kids? Any of you men got children?" Tom mumbled. "I got a boy back in Missouri." Red nodded. "Gray Wolf, you have children in that camp?" After a long moment, a voice came from the rocks. "I do." "Then you all know," Red said, his gaze sweeping over every man. "The love for a child, it's the same. It doesn't matter what language you speak or where you sleep. So I'm asking you, all of you, are we not all just people who love our children? Is that not more important than this piece of dirt right now?" The tension in the air shifted. It didn't vanish, but it changed. Jed slowly lowered his rifle until it pointed at the ground. Tom did the same. Behind the rock, Gray Wolf's bow arm trembled. Then, very slowly, he relaxed the string. He lowered the bow. He did not put the arrow away, but he did not aim it anymore. Only Jasper kept his rifle up, his knuckles white. "Fine words, Red, but words don't change facts. They're on our land." "Then we'll talk about the land," Red said, his tone final. "Like men, not with bullets and arrows. We'll talk, right now. You and me and Gray Wolf. Everyone else, stand down." Jasper's eyes darted to his men, who would not meet his gaze. He looked at the Apache warriors, no longer an easy target, but proud men standing their ground. He looked at Red, solid and unyielding in the middle. With a snarl of disgust, he finally lowered his rifle. "This ain't over," Jasper muttered. "For today it is," Red said. He got off his horse. He looked at Sarah, who gave him a small, grateful nod. Then he turned to face the rocks. "Gray Wolf, will you talk with me?" The talk happened away from the others, in the narrow mouth of the canyon. Gray Wolf stood on one side, his arms crossed. Red stood a few feet away, his hat in his hands. Jasper leaned against a rock, glaring. "My boss, Mr. Dawson, owns the grazing rights to this whole valley," Red began, speaking first in English for Jasper, then repeating it in Apache for Gray Wolf. "This is not his land. It is the land," Gray Wolf stated flatly. "I know that's how you see it," Red said. "But in his world, on his paper, it is his. He has 40 men with rifles who think the same. You have maybe 3 warriors. How does this end?" Gray Wolf was silent. He knew the answer. "I will talk to Dawson," Red said. "I will tell him you are not a war party. You are a family group. I will ask him to let you stay in the far north corner of the valley, near the old spring, for 1 cycle of the moon, 1 month, to rest and to hunt. Then you move on, peacefully. No trouble. In return, you do not come near the cattle or the ranch buildings." Jasper pushed off the rock. "You're crazy, Red. Dawson will never agree to that. Letting hostiles squat on his best grazing? The north corner is the poorest grazing, full of rocks. The cattle don't like it, Red said, keeping his eyes on Grey Wolf. It is a place to be left alone. It is a compromise. Grey Wolf studied Red's face. Why would you do this? Why would you speak for us? Red looked down at his hat. Because it's right. And because I made a promise to myself when I gave your niece that milk. No more standing by. After a long moment, Grey Wolf gave a single slow nod. One cycle of the moon. Then we go. We want no fighting. Good, Red said. He turned to Jasper. You heard the terms. You will ride back with me to the ranch, and you will not speak against this to Dawson. You will let me do the talking. Jasper's face was a mask of fury. I won't be a part of this surrender. I quit. You hear me? I'm done riding for this outfit if this is how things are. He stormed over to his horse, mounted, and rode down the canyon without looking back. Red watched him go, then looked at Jed and Tom. You two? The men glanced at each other. Tom shrugged. We ride for the brand, Red. If Dawson says it's okay by us. 2 days later, the agreement was set. Red stood in front of Mr. Dawson's wooden desk in the ranch house. Dawson was a thick man with a gray mustache. 1 month, you say? In the North Draw? Yes, sir. And they'll be gone after? No raids? No theft? They gave their word. Through me. Dawson leaned back, sighing. Jasper Hale says you've gone soft, that you're a traitor to your own kind. Red didn't flinch. Jasper quit. My loyalty is to stopping a useless war. Letting them have that rocky draw for a month costs you nothing. Trying to root them out could cost men and cattle. This is the practical choice, sir. Dawson stared at him for a long time, then grunted. Practical. I like practical. All right, McAllister, 1 month, but you're responsible. Any trouble, and I hold you to account. Understood, Red said. Later that day, Red found Billy mending a harness in the barn. I'm leaving too, Billy. Billy looked up, shocked. Because of Jasper? Because I don't fit here anymore. My heart's not in it. Red leaned against a post. I rode over to Fort Lowell this morning. They need scouts, men who know the land and can speak some Apache. I told them I could do it. They hired me. I start next week. A scout? Red, you'll be right in the middle of it all. Maybe, Red said. But maybe in the middle, I can do some good. I can be a voice for the practical choice, like I was for Dawson. It's better than moving cows for a man I don't respect alongside men who think I'm a traitor. Billy nodded sadly. I'm gonna miss you, Red. I'll miss you too, Billy. You're a good hand. Keep your head down. In the North Draw, Sarah helped her mother pack their few things into a new, more permanent camp. They could build proper shelters. They could hunt without fear for a little while. Grey Wolf approached her as she gathered firewood. The cowboy kept his word. Dawson agreed. I told you he was different, Sarah said softly. Grey Wolf's stern expression did not change, but his voice was less harsh. For 1 moon, he is different. We will use this time. We will grow strong. Then we will go. He walked away. Sarah looked toward the south, toward the ranch. She felt a debt she could never repay. She walked to the nearby creek and searched along the bank. She found a smooth gray stone worn by the water. It fit perfectly in the palm of her hand. It was not a gift for a warrior. It was a gift for a man who understood loss and who had chosen kindness anyway. She did not know if she would see him again to give it to him, but she would keep it ready, just in case. The morning was cool. Red McAllister stood on the wooden walkway outside the commander's office at Fort Lowell. He wore a simple uniform tunic now, not cowboy clothes. A sergeant with a thick mustache handed him a piece of paper. Scouting report for the Western Ridges, McAllister. Lieutenant wants to know if there's any movement. You go look. You come back. You tell us what you see. No engagement. Understood? Understood, Sergeant, Red said. His voice was calm. The job was clear. He was a pair of eyes for the Army now. His job was to find facts, not start fights. It felt right. As he walked to the stables to get his horse, he passed 2 young cavalrymen talking quietly. Heard it from a cowboy who quit the Dawson Ranch, one said. Said there was this red-haired fella who stood between a whole war party and 3 cowboys, just stood there talking to him in Apache, told him about his dead little girl. Got 'em all to back down." The other soldier shook his head. "I don't believe it." "It's true. My cousin was one of the cowboys. Said it was the strangest thing he ever saw. Said that red-haired fella's now a scout here." The soldiers noticed Red walking past and fell silent, watching him with curious eyes. Red kept walking, his face neutral. The story was already growing. It didn't feel like his story anymore. It was becoming something people told each other. In the North Draw, the 1 month of peace was over. The shelters were taken down. The few possessions were bundled. The people were stronger now. They had eaten well. Little Hawk was fat and healthy, laughing in his grandmother's arms. Sarah packed the last of their food into a bag. She picked up the tin cup, now scratched and dented from use. She wrapped it carefully in a piece of soft deer hide and placed it in the bag with her most important things. Her mother, White Flower, watched her. "You keep that cup like a sacred object." "It is a sacred object," Sarah said simply. "It is proof that a good heart can be found anywhere. I will need to remember that in the days to come." She walked away from the campfire to the flat rock by the creek where she sometimes sat. She took the smooth gray stone from a small pouch at her waist. She held it for a moment, feeling its cool weight. Then she bent and placed it carefully in the center of the rock. 2 days later, Red was given his first solo scouting mission. He chose to ride through the North Draw. He knew the Apache group would be gone. He wanted to see the empty space. He found the place where their camp had been. The fire pits were cold and filled in with dirt. He saw the shapes on the ground where shelters had stood. He walked his horse through the quiet clearing. He saw the flat rock by the creek. Something was on it. He dismounted and walked over. The gray stone sat there, clean and obvious. It had not rolled there. It had been placed. He picked it up. It was smooth and solid. He knew, without any doubt, who had left it for him. It was a message without words. It said, "I remember. I am grateful. We are gone." He closed his fingers around the stone. It felt warm from the sun. He put it in the pocket of his tunic, next to the small journal where he wrote letters to Mary. That night, in his bunk at the fort, he took out the journal. He also placed the stone on the rough blanket beside him. He picked up his pencil. "Dear Mary, they moved on today. The mother and her little boy. They are safe for now. I found a stone she left. I think you would have liked it. It is a good stone. I have a new job. I try to help people talk instead of fight. I think you would like that too. I am not just missing you anymore. I am trying to do things you would be proud of. I think maybe that is how I keep you with me. I love you. Pa**. He closed the journal. He held the stone in his hand until he fell asleep. Far to the east, Sarah's group made a new camp. As the fire was lit, her brother Kaya told the story to the younger boys. The cowboy with the red hair, he stood in the middle. He spoke our words. He spoke of his child in the ground. He asked if we were not all fathers. The other white men put their guns down. In a bunkhouse at a different ranch, a cowboy named Tom told the story to some new hands. Old Red McAllister, he just walked his horse right between us, told us all about his dead little girl. Asked if any of us had kids. I tell you, it took the fight right out of a man. Never seen anything like it. The details changed with each telling. Sometimes Red was taller, sometimes the baby was a girl, but the heart of the story remained the same. An act of milk for a hungry child, a shared loss, a choice to stand for peace instead of violence. Sarah fed Little Hawk his supper from the tin cup. Red guided his horse along a ridge, the stone a quiet weight in his pocket. They were apart, moving on their own difficult paths. But in bunkhouses and around campfires, in 2 different languages, the story was told. It was a small, quiet reminder in a hard land. A reminder that a single choice for kindness could be stronger than years of fear. It was not a story with an ending. It was a story that asked a question. What will you choose?